Hello everybody and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. What's up? I'm Dick Mycinko.
This just in, I'm Brian Bumpiss.
Good morning, Brian Bumpiss. How you doing?
Hello, Dick. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's been the weather's been lovely recently and not like in that boiling, oh my god, I think I'm going to die kind of way.
Yeah.
There's been sort of a refreshing breeze, beautiful blue skies and sun overhead, and it doesn't make you want to jump into an ice bath.
That's true. Yeah, it's a rare treat. I've been enjoying it. And the nights have they've just been nice enough that you can have the window open if you want a little bit of fresh air, but you don't get freezing cold. But you're not roasting hot if you don't have it open. It's just that nice sweet spot.
It's just that nice sweet spot. I'm back under a duvet again now. Mm-hmm. Was under just a sheet for a while when it was too warm.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a great position to be in weather-wise.
We're on a summer duvet now. We had the winter duvet on until a couple of months ago, and they're like, It's time to change. Got to change it.
I bought one of those, what are they called? You know Simba, the brand? Like Simba mattresses and so on.
I don't know if I do off the top of my head, but I'll believe you.
They're like all of those other brands that you hear on podcasts, except for this one all the time.
Right.
And they also do a range of other things, including a duvet. And I thought I'll buy myself a really nice, expensive branded duvet. And it's got all these, what are quite clearly paid for advert articles on loads of reputable sites where it says in really small letters, this is a paid for article.
Right.
And the whole thing is just, it's made up like a review, but it's clearly nonsense because it's been paid for. So it's not a real review at all. It's just an advert. And it's saying things like, it regulates heat amazingly. It sort of traps heat underneath, but never makes you too warm. It's brilliant for women going through menopause. That was the big selling point. And I was like, okay, well, this sounds like an all-year duvet. That's perfect. It's not too hot in the summer because it regulates heat, and it traps heat when it's cold outside and, in the winter. And I tell you what, it is so hot all the time.
Oh, no.
It just traps all of the heat. So here is my condemning warning to anyone thinking of buying a Simba duvet. Don't do it. It's a perfectly fine duvet, but it doesn't do what it advertises at all.
Well, the problem is, Dick, is that you're not going through menopause. I think if you are, then it works perfectly.
That is true, and I will never understand what menopause is like. But if it's too hot in the summer, that lie about it regulating heat it hurts. It hurts because it's too hot. It's too hot under the duvet, and then you're sticking a leg out, and it's like, well, why have I paid for this big expensive duvet?
Well,
it just makes me want to just kill someone,
All right,
makes me just want to go shoot someone.
Chill out. It's fine.
I won't.
Oh, okay.
Flipping won't.
Right. Well.
Anyway, that was a quick aside.
Just a quick aside, yeah.
It was pillow talk, is what that section of the
Very
podcast
good.
was. Thank you for
That's
coming
one of the
along.
best ones ever there. I like that.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the rest of the podcast is going to be crap now, isn't it? We peaked that early. But anyway, this is our video game podcast. I've been listening a lot, actually, to the Cultaholic Wrestling podcast, our sister podcast, recently. Mm-hmm. And they go on these mad diversions from time to time. And I really enjoy them. So I thought maybe we should just sort of let go of our inhibitions a little bit. Yeah, and just talk some waffle. I'm sure there's a sizable portion of our audience that hated that. But even so. Let's talk about video games. This podcast is sponsored each and every week by a prominent video game adjacent sponsor. We appreciate it. It helps us do this thing for you for free. I have got the ad read here. Are you ready, Brian, to hear it?
This is a paid article.
This is a paid article on our podcast. I've got the ad read here. It says, Hades, the multi-Game of the Year award-winning indie roguelike, has officially partnered with Primark to bring a range of affordable branded eyewear to fans. Titled Shadies, the sunglasses are cheap, made in China, and break almost immediately. Buy them now. That's what the ad read says.
I would expect nothing less, and more to the point, nothing more from Primark.
from Primark Eyewear, yes. So there you go. If you enjoy Hades, get yourself a pair of shadies.
Get those shadies. Stick them on.
Get those shadies on. The slim shadies. That's real. No, it's not real.
Oh, all right.
I'm sorry. It's not real.
I'm all right with that one not being real. That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Imagine if you read an article about a heat ventilating duvet, and then that turned out not to be real, but you spent a sizable amount of money on it first.
Oh,
Can you imagine how annoying that would be?
That would be a real shame.
Pretty irritating, isn't it? No, that's not real. Our real sponsor is our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where for as little as $1 per month, you get access to the podcast post that allows you to submit questions for this show. That's where we source the questions from. We do 4 questions a week, and I don't know why that was so challenging to tot up there. 4 questions a week, and they're all sourced from Patreon. Thank you to our patrons. Brian, where are we walking this week? We forgot to do this last week.
We did. Well, I forgot my surname last week, but don't worry. It's all okay. We are walking this week, of course, across a beautiful mattress. Can we be walking across that? Do you remember that sexy mattress advert that I think they ended up changing a bit? It was kind of gratuitous, really. It was various different shaped kind of rollers and squishy pads and stuff, like moving and bouncing up and down this mattress as though they were like testing it for. It said like, the best mattress technology tested for like all mattress purposes or something, and it was like really kind of in your face and slightly
jumping on the bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now the same company run very similar adverts, but without the breast-shaped cushions bouncing on the mattress. They've sort of changed it. They've tidied it up a bit.
Okay. You want that specific mattress?
Just a still from that one. I'll help James find it if he needs to.
Or maybe not. James has probably got that dirty rascal. Probably has an entire folder on his computer.
It's on his desktop.
That mattress advert.
Yeah. Seems like the type.
Grotesque. Well, wonderful. That's where we're walking. Sounds like a dream. Let's hear a little bit. Help me, Brian.
Let's hear a little bit of. I did the same thing. Let's hear a little bit about TripleJump.gg.
Hello everyone! As well as our extremely real and totally not fictitious in any way sponsor, we're officially partnered with PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo to sell their codes through our own website, TripleJump.gg.
Here you can get everything from topping up your digital wallets to PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live Gold, Xbox Game Pass and Nintendo Switch Online subscriptions, as well as Minecraft Mine Coins. Mine Coins, they'll be your coins any minute.
Nice one, Peter.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It's 100% legitimate, directly supports us, and provides you with the delightful digital currencies you're going to buy anyway. Visit TripleJump.gg to browse our full stock.
TripleJump.gg. This is a real sponsor. Fantastic. Well, it's time for question 1. This is from Lewis. And Lewis says, "Morning, chaps. I've seen this summer described as being the summer of sport, which returns of the football Euros, Wimbledon, and the Olympics, amongst others. But what sports video games do you like the best? Or which do you think are particularly worse than most? Have a great week, Lewis."
Thank you, Lewis.
I struggled, really, to think of sports games that I actually like. The one that I can think of that probably qualifies the most as a sports game, I don't even have like particularly strong feelings about, but it's Wii Sports in that it's got mass appeal. Grandma can play it, your dog can play it, your dead uncle can play it somehow. Anyone. But outside of that, because as I say, I don't actually have particularly strong feelings about it. I think, as I say, it's got mass appeal, but I've never owned a Wii. So in terms of games that I've played and owned and enjoyed in terms of sports games, I don't know. I had to be a little bit outside the box. Rocket League is a lot of fun. That's a sort of fictional sport, RC football. And then other than that, like in terms of ball games and athletics and the things that immediately come to mind, I think, when you say sports, none of those games do it for me. I'm not a FIFA player, I'm not a PES player, anything like that. But I do like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the series, and Tony Hawk's Underground, and the odd snowboarding game as well. I've not played one in many, many years, but there was a time that I played quite a bit of Amped on Xbox, which you know all about, and SSX as well from time to time. So
fantastic.
Board games, but not board games. Board sports.
Those, but not those.
Yeah.
Are there any sports games that you've played that you've thought, wow, this is rubbish?
Well, only really the ones I could think of from worst games ever. So All-Star Water Sports, the one with the surfboards and stuff. And then what was it called? Big Beach Sports? The one with the sand buggy? That wasn't even a sports game, really. It was a driving game, but it was called Sport. Oh no, wait, I'm thinking of two different games. There was that.
Yeah, that was the one from
one.
Davilex or whatever, whoever did that. Yeah, the Big Beach Sports was the Tesco
Wii Sports ripoff.
Yeah, sort of the Tesco bargain bin Wii Sports.
Yeah. Well, both of those. Yeah.
What was the name of the buggy one? It talked a gratuitous amount about getting the babes on the beach, didn't it?
I can look it up while you give us your sports time highs and lows.
Because that was a really bad one. Podcast listeners, if you've not watched that episode, once Brian tracks down the name of the game, it's pretty bad. It's not only from a notoriously terrible driving game studio, but the whole pretense and premise of the game is that you have to perform tricks on your sort of dune buggy in a weird wonky physics engine, in the hope of impressing a babe who is in the top corner of the screen, always watching
about the
you.
Babes.
Yeah. You got to impress the babe so that you quote unquote get her. I don't really. The implications are upsetting, but it doesn't really expand upon that.
I've got the name here, and it's such a forgettable name that even reading it in front of my very eyes doesn't actually ring any bells. But it was called Beach King Stunt Racer.
That's it, yeah.
Beach King
Stunt Racer. Absolutely awful. Yeah, I second those as the worst sports games I've ever played.
Yeah.
In terms of ones that I like, and your sort of curveball twist on the question, I agree with all of those. I love the Wii Sports. Who doesn't love the Wii Sports? The Wii Sports is amazing. But in particular, Virtua Tennis 2009 for the PS3, I really liked because it sort of does that brilliant Japanese thing of being, when it comes to sports games, and the same goes for PES, where it's incredibly competent at what it does, but it can also be a bit silly and fun. There's lots of brilliant mini games in Virtua Tennis where you're hitting the ball at plates on the court to try and smash them. You're dodging giant fruit that's rolling towards you. Nice. All sorts of stuff like that, because you create your tennisman or tenniswoman, and you take them on sort of a global tour, and there are RPG elements, so you get better. Like, parts of your game gets better as you climb the rankings and do these practice things. Just like how Andy Murray, before he gets ready for Wimbledon, dodges a giant pineapple.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Wimbledon says, "Right, you're in, Andy. You dodged the crap out of that pair. Get over here." And I really loved that game, really, really enjoyed it. And then it sort of kind of fell off a cliff with the subsequent game, and we've not had one since. And that's kind of sad, because there aren't really any, or many at least, competent tennis games in that style that are more arcadey than they are sim, if that makes any sense.
Well,
so I loved that.
You've reminded me of a game that I'd completely forgotten existed. I used to play it at Peter's Gamer's uncle's house, and it was...
You went there too?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. I used to just go around and say, "Hey, you don't know me, but I will work with Peter one day in future." Rockstar Games presents table tennis, which might sound like I'm taking the piss, right? But it was genuinely quite fun. It was a sort of a blend between sim and arcadey, in that it presented itself quite seriously, like it was, an attempt at kind of photorealism in terms of graphics. It wasn't like stylized, but it would quite often go into slow-mo. Like if someone hit the ball back at you and it like went up into the air, it would suddenly go into like bullet time so that you could smash it down. And it got really intense, that game, sometimes. Like I really sound like I'm having a laugh here, but I have some fond memories of playing that, which also reminds me of another 360 sort of sports game that I quite enjoyed, which was Fight Night round 4 or something. But the Fight Night games are pretty good. Again, they had like a big slow-mo punch when you knocked someone out, and when it was in between rounds, you would actually then go into the corner, and there was a mini game where you had to like rub ice and stuff onto your boxer's face to try and bring the swelling down. Things like that, which was kind of funny.
That's great.
So yeah, both of those actually I've just remembered.
I never played Rockstar table tennis.
No.
But I do remember it being, for some reason, I can't remember where I saw it. It must have been at a friend's house, the back of the box that their Xbox 360 came in, and I think Rockstar Table Tennis was one of the featured games on the back. You know how they sort of have a collage of different games available for the system with like their names underneath. So yeah, never played that one, but it's kind of crazy that now is something you and your friends can do in GTA Online as just like a small thing. Just go play table tennis if you want.
81% on Metacritic for Xbox 360. It was also on Wii, 68%, so not so good. But yeah, 360.
Really nice though.
It's pretty good. Yeah, very nice.
The other one that I really enjoyed, I have enjoyed several FIFA games through the years. FIFA 2001 on the PS1 was a game that I have lots of fond memories of. My cousin had it, and I used to go around and play it at his house, and just used to like. I was kind of. It sort of blew my mind the intricacies of that game's like season mode or career mode, where you had to offer players contracts, to keep them happy and keep them on your team and stop them from going anywhere else, and buying other players. I found that really compelling. And then it was just a really fun football game as well. And I went on to become completely obsessed with a PS2 FIFA game that from looking at the box arts of the various PS2 FIFA games, cannot pinpoint, but I'm just going to say FIFA 2004. I don't know specifically which one it was. But that one, I became a savant at the free kick minigame in it. I just became really, really good at it. And we had a tournament with my friends, and I won because I could score free kicks every time. And FIFA is one of those series that one of the irritating ways that they iterate and say, it's not the same game as last year, is by just changing minigames you spent an entire year getting good at, which is really annoying. So it's never been knowledge or experience that I've been able to pull forward to do anything else. But that game's career mode as well, I was obsessed with. Oxford United, climbing the table to the Premier League, getting David Beckham to come and play in Oxford. Ridiculous. But yeah, those are a few sports games that I've really enjoyed that stick out to me.
Yeah, good. Well, it's time to move on to a new section. Where we talk about the games, what we're playing.
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called What We Playin'.
Oh my goodness. It's What We Playin' time. Time for What We Playing. Brian, what are you playing?
Brian. I've played exactly what I played last week. I'm afraid sorry to be boring, but the same two games have filled up my gaming time. Been playing some Halo 3 multiplayer. I really like being back in that game, both on and off stream. So I've also been, of course, streaming the campaign and just having a whole lot of fun. Whole lot of fun. In my second stream, the most recent one, I upped the difficulty to normal mode because I was playing on easy at first, as I often do on streams, just to so that you're going to get through it in a few sessions. But it was just to quote Peter Austin, whose comments we do not want. It was just too easy on easy mode the first time round. So we got to probably my favorite level in the game, where there's just loads and loads of vehicles, and you like drive a tank, and you can like commandeer the enemy vehicles and stuff. You blow up lots of things. The soundtrack's great. So I had a great time playing it single player, and I've just continued playing deathmatch mode as well on in my own time, and it really does just make me feel. I mean, I don't know how old I was, 16 again, something like that, 15, 16. Yeah. Played just hours and hours and hours and hours of that game back on 360 Xbox Live. But also I've continued with Ratchet and Clank. It's taken me a while to get through that game because I keep just booting up Halo and doing that instead. But I've done this is no big spoiler, given that the game, in a sense, came out like 20 years ago. But I've done the train level. It was the most recent thing I did. So really enjoying that game. And as I said last time, it's just making me even more excited to play the most recent Ratchet game that came out a week or so ago, because I just keep thinking, like, if I'm enjoying this that was made in 2016, then surely the fairly critically acclaimed Rift Apart is going to be even more enjoyable. So if anything, that's probably what's likely to hopefully make me pick up the pace over the next couple of weeks, so that I can just get that done and enjoy it while I'm doing it, and then move on to the most recent game. But yeah, same old for me, just the same games this week. What have you been
good
playing?
Games.
Well, they're good games. Yeah,
they're good games to be playing.
Yeah,
I have to talk about this now because, especially when it comes to video games, my brain is often a bit of a sieve, and I completely forget things that I've experienced or played if it's longer than 10 years,
right?
Or even 2 years, and I need specific reminders. I remember going on my friend's birthday into town and him being bought or buying with birthday money a Halo 3 branded Xbox 360, the green one.
Oh yeah,
that was and I think it made like a Halo noise when it turned it on or ejected a disc or something. And that came with Halo 3, and then we went back and played Halo 3 co-op all afternoon, and it was amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun. The co-op mode in all three of those games, actually. The whole Halo trilogy, the co-op is a lot of fun.
Campaign co-op is the best.
Yeah, for sure.
I have played a little bit of Warzone, and I won a game because,
congratulations!
Come on, look at me.
Yeah.
And then I have, apart from that, just been playing more Mass Effect 2 and remembering increasingly why I love it so very, very much. And I think it's partially just the polish. That game is polished to within an inch of its life. Every sort of, even the smallest mission has a specific animation showing like your ship arriving, the Normandy arriving at like wherever it is. If you're, say, last night, through a chain of side missions, managed to track down the source of this distress beacon that was actually a trap that ships were falling into and then being robbed. And I forcibly boarded this ship where the distress beacon was coming from because a gang had taken up residence in there.
Right.
And it even though that's the smallest side mission, there was still a little cutscene of them looking out the window in horror as the Normandy approached and docked, and them sort of running around and getting prepared to defend themselves and stuff. There's just so many little things in that game that just make it such a slick experience. The shooting is better than the last game. The squad commands are better than the last game. To all of the menus, the hacking mini games, all of it, like everything is just so much more improved. Just so much better than the first game. And I'm just in constant awe of it, like all of the dialogue lines. And I've said this before, but every time you do a mission, go around your ship and talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, they will have something new to say. And sometimes that'll lead to a side mission, because the way this game is structured is you're assembling your crew to take out Big Bad, and then you need everyone's full attention for Big Bad, so everyone has a loyalty mission that you have to do for them as well. sometimes the loyalty missions will be uncovered. Sometimes romance options will be uncovered. Sometimes it will just be a comment or like a snide remark, depending on who you've got in your party with you when you're on a mission. They'll all have different things to say, and if they're specifically relevant to that mission, they will have very unique dialogue that will, actually make sense. Like if you encounter someone from the first game and you're with one of the original party members that were also in the first game, they'll talk to one another and say hello, and it's like there's just so many things that it feels like everything has been thought of. There's very rarely an occasion where you're like, oh, it's weird how those two didn't interact because they've met each other before. Like everything has been thought of, and it just makes me flash forward and think to a Mass Effect Andromeda and what could have been, because by all accounts a competent Mass Effect game, obviously very buggy, but at its core a competent spacefaring adventure. But when you look back at what they accomplished with this game, we've had better in the past, and we deserve better. And I really hope that whatever form BioWare is now compared to what it was in 2009 when they were making this, I sincerely hope that the next Mass Effect game is more on par with the level of quality we've got here. Everything doesn't need, we say it a lot, but not everything needs to be bigger. I feel like that's the direction a lot of these games have taken.
Yeah, we were saying that last week, weren't we, I think?
Yeah, it doesn't always matter. Just focus on the important stuff. Have a really tight narrative game. And I feel like I say that every week. But just make sure that it makes sense within the confines of its own universe. Make sure it's believable, that these characters feel real and not like weird, gurning, two-dimensional blue aliens like they were in Andromeda. Anyway, That's my rant over. Mass Effect 2 is amazing, and I'm going to be very sad when it's finished.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm looking forward to you playing it, so I can hear what you think. You're going to hate it, aren't you? That's what's going to happen.
Sure. Yeah, hate space operas. I'm known for it.
Bloody hate those space games. Let's move on to question 2. This is from Callum Straw, who says, "Hello, Brian and Dick. Just a quick one. Has there ever been a game you heard convinced yourself was bad, or a game you convinced yourself you wouldn't enjoy, but actually really enjoyed playing? I recently played Katana Zero, and after initially thinking I wouldn't like it, mistakenly thinking it was a roguelike, I absolutely love it and would recommend it to anyone. All the best, Callum. P.S. Dick, can you do a sick dab for me?" There you go, Callum.
Nice, that was good. I quickly dipped into the worst games ever back catalogue for this question again, just to see if there are any games that, probably none of them I've ever really enjoyed playing, that was Callum's wording there. But I do think it's worth pointing out that the Pirates of the Caribbean Jackanism game and also Xena Warrior Princess, I think, are the worst games we've ever played on the show, and I thought they were both reasonable. In some ways, I struggled with this because I think generally, if there are games that I've convinced myself are bad, I probably won't take a risk on them. I'll normally inform myself about them before playing them. I'd be like, are they really this bad? I'm going to watch some gameplay first, things like that. And I'll only then buy them if I've already kind of decided, oh no, they look okay. It's rare that I put a disc into my console thinking this is supposed to be rubbish. But maybe one example would be, you have to hear me out here, Goat Simulator.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that game is designed to be a kind of wonky YouTube reactionary thing. The whole point is oh, look how silly it is, look how sort of intentionally bad it is. Everyone's going to play this, it's going to go viral. That's the intention. However, I think even within that, so people who know that that's what it is, I think there's a certain maybe even a majority of people who say, yeah, but even if that's what it was aiming to do, it's still just kind of a bit rubbish. It's not as silly, and it doesn't have the replay value of some of the other games in that kind of sphere. And so even as a silly viral game, it's not very good. But I thought when I played Goat Sim, that it was actually it did have like it had replay value to it, and it had things that I was kind of interested in seeing to completion. So there were like kind of in-game achievements or trophies that you had to do, and you had to like work out what they even referred to, because sometimes it wasn't obvious. And there were like all sorts of strange Easter eggs. Like there was like a summoning circle with like demon goats in it, and you could hunt down and find like little secret things hidden inside buildings and stuff. So again, it's all within like the bounds of what it was setting out to do. But I think in that kind of viral, silly game sphere, it was a good one of those, whereas some people think that it was unintentionally a bad one of those. But that's, in a way, that was me clutching at straws, because I kind of struggled to think of one. In fact, I meant to open Steam and check my Steam library. I do that sometimes if I can't think of a console example, so I might do that now. But what have you played that you were pleasantly surprised by?
I have two recent examples, because I imagine, like you, I don't really often dive headfirst into something I'm not 100% sure on.
Yeah.
So, Days Gone was one that I put off playing for ages, and I ended up borrowing it from a friend just because the reviews weren't very good, and it was like it's another zombie game, and especially as far as PlayStation is concerned, you've already got The Last of Us. Like, why are they doing another one? It's from a studio that I don't think has a particularly strong track record of making amazing games. And, when I saw the reviews, that sort of confirmed my own bias. Like, well, why would I play this then? Why would I buy this?
Yeah. And
as documented in the video that Ben tweeted after he finished playing it, there's still a lot of bugs in it, and it can be a bit janky at times, but I actually ended up really, really enjoying it, sincerely enjoying it, and some of the characters are like crap. There's a character called Booze Man in it.
Right.
And you're meant to like really care about the emotional bond between your main character, Deacon St. John, and Booze Man, his best mate, Booze Man, who he calls Boozer. And it's just like, for God's sake, they really haven't made it easy for themselves with the naming of some of these characters.
Boozman sounds like a Hideo Kojima Death Stranding
He does,
character.
yeah, Booze Man. He does. He genuinely does. And I ended up really liking it. I still encountered some irritations, but like I was into it, and I had a nice time with it, and I did get the platinum, and it's a great game. I can't say that the reviews are not justified. I do think perhaps there's been a lot of chatter about the reviews were based on an unpatched early build that was way less stable than the launch version. And basically that Sony sent it out to die with critics by not allowing them to patch it before they played it. So they played a version of the game that was buggered, essentially. But I think it's really good. It's a great game. I'm sad it won't get a sequel, to be honest, because I think there was a lot of stuff in it that was really cool. The other one is Returnal, which we were talking about Ben, and you know what, I can't be asked with that. We were talking about on this podcast, like right up until the week before it came out, saying, I just don't know about this game. Like, I'm really not sure if I'm going to get it. And then when I saw sort of the chatter start to increase, I think some of the reviews came out and stuff, we organised a copy through the company, and I played it, and as documented on this podcast, was blown away by it. Still don't think it's for everyone, but it's a game that I was absolutely A, not expecting to like, and B, kind of expecting to be extremely divisive, which it is, but extremely divisive with critics, which it ended up not really being. There was sort of a general consensus that this game is really good. It's just tough as nails. I'd say those two from recent memory are two that I did not have high hopes for and ended up actually really liking.
Yeah, in terms of games that aren't like supposed to be bad necessarily, but just I thought weren't for me, I do have a couple of those. There's one, I don't know if you've heard of this, called Dungeons of Dreadmore. It's a roguelike on Steam, and it's going back years now, maybe, I don't know, 2012 2010, 2015, something like that, in that little range. It's a roguelike, and it's very kind of heavy, intentionally roguelike, unlike something like Returnal, which is a roguelike, but in some ways doesn't feel like a true classic old-fashioned roguelike. But Dungeons of Dreadmore, it's like turn-based as well, in that you can do any action. So you can like take one step in any direction, or you can swing your sword, or it's all quite fast-paced. It's not like bit by bit by bit, but like the moment that you walk a tile, then the rest of the world updates by one action. So all the enemies around you will move one tile, or like fire a projectile at you all in one go, and then it's your turn. And you can like hold the walking directions and just constantly move tile by tile without stopping. So you're just doing a walking animation along the floor, but like as you take each step, the world goes and updates like that. And it's designed to just kill you. It's like a permadeath game, and you're just supposed to get as far as you can. It's a procedurally generated dungeon. There's all sorts of weird things that you encounter that you don't necessarily understand, in terms of, do I need to bring something here, or who is this? I've never seen one of these before. What's this item used for? So that's not my kind of game at all. But I saw it on YouTube. It might have been on the Yogscast actually, and even then I think I wasn't convinced, but I might have actually ended up with it in like a bundle or something, or maybe someone gifted it to me on Steam, and I gave it a go. And actually, when I was at uni, I ended up playing quite a lot of it. It was just a game that you can sit down, have a run through, and you actually know, in some ways it's like reassuring that you're going to die. You're going to like hit a permadeath at some point, probably in the next hour or two. And so you kind of just feel like, well, I'll just play till I die. It's like the kind of game you can sit down and have a session in, see how far you get, and then your score gets added to your own leaderboard at the end, and you just see how far you got. And the other game, Terraria, I always thought this is just a poor man's Minecraft, because that was kind of the height of Minecraft's first wave. It kind of hit a second wave in the past couple of years.
The Delta variant.
Yeah, exactly. But Minecraft was huge back then. Then this game called Terraria came out, which looked similar in that it's build your own world sort of thing, but it's 2D. I was like, oh, all right, sure.
You've lost an entire dimension. You want me to play this?
We have. What on earth? And then me and some friends from high school, one of them just suggested we should play Terraria. It's actually better than you think. And God, we spent hours and hours and hours in that game. And I've tried to be kind of a proponent for Terraria for people like I know, for example, you would look at it and think that's not really for me. And
I did. I was there at exactly the time you were talking about, when Minecraft was popular, and I tried it and thought, this is not Minecraft.
Oh, you tried it, did you?
Yeah. I have it on PS3 at least, I think.
Right. I might have tried it solo and not enjoyed it, but certainly when I played it with friends, I had a great time. And there's like boss fights in it, which you don't... I mean, now you get that in Minecraft, but at the time, there weren't boss fights in Minecraft. So you can, like, summon monsters, and there are all these tactics that people do, like build a special arena for fighting monsters, not just because it looks cool, but because it's actually, like, easier to do. And you build, like, a elevator where you just dig, like, a hole straight down to, like, the sort of nether equivalent, and put water in the bottom so you can just jump down like layers and layers and layers and not die fall damage. So it was quite fun just to kind of learn how you play that game and just go exploring and mining and stuff with friends. So yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah, I've heard it's come on really far. It's still, honestly, it's still not something that appeals to me directly. But the fact that it's still going today proves that I was just wrong about it when I played it. So I couldn't be happier to be wrong.
Yeah. I've not played it in years, but I do remember. I remember it very fondly. Yeah.
Well, if you were to see that game after playing Minecraft exclusively, you'd think, well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? It's a bit odd.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
And I suppose that signifies clunkily that we should be moving on to weird news.
Weird news.
Weird news time. Time for some weird video game news. Brian, what have you brought along this week?
Hello, I'm Brian Butterfield.
No.
Brian Bump. It happens every time, almost every time. I'm Brian Bumpiss. I'm glad we both caught it there, though, at least.
Yeah, we saw it. We know. We know.
Welcome to Weird News. I've got a story here from Kotaku, the home of Weird News. It's written by Ian Walker, who sort of is starting to feel like the deputy to, what's he called?
Luke.
Yeah, Luke Plunkett.
Luke Plunkett. There's also Zach Svisen as well. He's also in the mix somewhere.
It's categorised under odds and ends here on Kotaku. Okay. Chivalry 2 player only needs bread to kill.
Oh, no.
Subtitle. No word yet on what kind of bread he used to get the job done.
Bread makes you fat. So, that's eat true. Enough and you'll die.
Well, yeah.
That's the story.
Despite its serious medieval trappings, Chivalry 2 matches can get pretty slapsticky thanks to the game allowing players to use anything at their disposal to take down opponents. Case in point, this recent Reddit post showing a creative Chivalry 2 player scoring 2 kills in a row with a weapon made of whole grains rather than iron or steel. "You can't escape the bread, boy," wrote Jack Attack 1291, who shared his achievement across several subreddits. "I got 2 back-to-back kills using bread on Chivalry 2, and I'm so proud of the second kill." Now, I was reading this article, and up to this point, I was like, okay, this is weird news material. But I'll read the next little bit. There's now a GIF embedded in the article of the kills, and it's amazing. But I'll describe it to you first, and then send you the GIF. And I recommend everyone listening goes to the YouTube version of this podcast and picks up the weird news links there. The footage is pretty incredible. After coming across 2 armoured knights engaged in a sword fight, Jack Attack 1291 comedically looks to his left and grabs a loaf of bread from a nearby table. He then runs up on the combatants and manages to brain one with the roll. Oh, I thought it was bray. That's what they say. That's what they say in the north of England. They say bray. I'll bray you. Yeah. I don't know how it's spelled, but yeah. Anyway,
I know brain. I've never heard bray.
There you go. That's a regional dialect. Anyway, the other, perhaps scared of befalling the same yeasty fate, takes off running, giving Jack Attack 1291 the chance to retrieve his bread and test his throwing arm. The sight of the bread arcing across the battleground, its velocity apparently so powerful that it leaves a contrail in the air before beaning the retreating soldier right in the dome, will never stop being funny. I will now send you the GIF. Here we go. There's no audio, so they must have heard the audio on the Reddit post itself, but here it is. And the throw, I think, is like the dictionary definition of a yeet.
Okay. Right, he's gone up the stairs. There's 2 people fighting in front of him. He looks, he grabs the bread. He has the bread in his left hand. Bonk! Bashes the brain out of one guy. He's picked up the same bread again. Oh my god, the same bread roll twice. And he yeets it, and that's another kill.
It's a good
Incredible.
Throw.
Throws it right over the stands.
Mm-hmm. With a perfect arc.
Wow.
So, Chivalry 2's devs definitely had these kind of bread-based shenanigans in mind while making the game. Before it launched earlier this month, creative director Steve Piggott told Shack News that Chivalry 2 was meant to evoke the feeling of a bar fight, where everything, from chickens to a dead enemy's head, can be used as a weapon. There's even an achievement, appropriately titled Baker's Dozen, that rewards players for killing 13 enemies with bread. The article continues a little bit more, but that's the bulk of it.
Wow. That's very weird.
It is a bit weird. I guess it's less weird given that it's clearly an intentional game mechanic, but still. I guess we're early on in the game's life cycle, so these things are still sort of being discovered.
It's going to get weirder.
It's going to get much weirder for sure, yeah, and people will be doing bread-only runs and stuff, I'm sure.
I can't wait for those.
Weird me, Dick.
I shall. This is from PC Gamer and Natalie Clayton. The title is, "Finally! Someone put a Greg's in Far Cry 5.
Oh my god.
With the subtitle, Ubisoft's open-world romp is best enjoyed with Britain's favourite sausage roll.
Brilliant.
Fighting pseudo-religious cultists is hard work, especially when Montana lacks a ready supply of cheap sausage rolls. Fortunately, one Far Cry 5 mapper has brought British high street staple Greg's to Ubisoft's open-world Cult Basher. Greg's, for our non-Brit readers, is an ubiquitous bakery chain here in Blighty. She is writing some big words today.
Ubiquitous.
I am struggling with them. Having already brought a block of dismal flats to Far Cry 5, Edinburgh-based mapper Mojo Swap Tops decided to recreate the sandwich shop using the game's shockingly deep map editor. It's an alarmingly good facsimile too. Yes, the font's a little off and the shelves are stocked with upside-down burgers and fruit baskets, but from a distance, the vibes are immaculate. The warm glow of a £3 coffee and sausage roll illuminating an otherwise grim Scottish street.
The font's a little off. Jeez, can't chill out. It's not going to have the Greg's font available.
Holes. There's a soothing quality to watching him slowly stock the shelves, panel the floors, and place a dainty seagull by the trash outside. Mojo does have more exciting builds over on his YouTube channel, but it's these mundane ones I found myself loving the most, especially when they relate to my own hometown. Capturing the piss-stained scene of the Cowgate on a Friday night, the apocalyptic chaos of a Tesco car park, and so on, it goes on. Sadly, Far Cry 6 will be the first in the series to get rid of these mapping tools, ditching arcade entirely. At the very least, however, I'm quietly confident Greg's won't be striking Mojo with a copyright takedown anytime soon. So you've seen this, Brian. You've seen this Greg's build.
I have. I was trying to just react as though I hadn't, but I have seen
You did a great job.
Thanks.
You did a great job. But we'll pull down the curtain because it's not. People will be thinking, well, why didn't Dick send Brian a video or a link to a picture? But it's great.
It's because we don't get on outside of the podcast.
Absolutely. We don't talk to each other. But it's really impressive.
It is.
And Far Cry 5's map editor has been exploding in popularity recently, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's the news it's not coming back for Far Cry 6, but I didn't realise it was so in-depth, the amount of stuff you could make in it, and how detailed it is.
That's two things I was going to say. First off, I was about to say, Far Cry map editors, fantastic. They've been great since, the earliest Far Cry game I played was Far Cry Instinct's Predator, and even that, years and years ago, had an amazing map editor. I spent probably as much time in that as I did actually playing the game. And so it's kind of been a staple of the series for a long time, I think. I've not actually played more recent games, but I'm assuming, going off the context of that article, that they've all had map editors in them since then. So I'm shocked and saddened to hear that they'll finally be dropping it, after such a long time. It's like Time Splitters had a really good one, I think, in certainly two of the games, if not all three. So it's kind of, again, a bit of a staple of the series. So that's sad to hear. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I love the fact that people like, what was the mapper's name?
Mojo Swap Tops.
I love the fact that people like Mojo Swap Tops make maps just artistically like that. They didn't then think, it won't be very fun to have a deathmatch in the tight confines of a Greg's. They didn't make it for that. They did it just to make a Greg's in the map editor. Like, why not? That's great. I love that. It's like how in Dreams, some people didn't make games. They made like animations and movies or just pictures. Scenes, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Very impressive. The Tesco car park one is very good. I think it's meant to be evocative of when the pandemic first started.
Yeah,
it's just Tesco in the distance with like cars on fire and people sprinting across frame.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So good. Well, there we are. That's weird news. It's time to move on to question 3.
It's from Trevor Price. That's Trevor Price. Hi, Bot and Ponler.
No idea who they are. Trevor clearly doesn't listen to the podcast.
Not a clue.
That's good.
I have finally taken the dive into Cyberpunk, in parentheses it says Xbox Series S, and it is fantastic. I'm glad I waited for the fixes. I did the same with The Witcher 3 and with various other games, and have only positive things to say about them, experiencing none of the bugs from launch. What games did you make yourselves wait for, and was glad you did it? Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
I'm not sure if there are any games. I feel like there's maybe one or two out there in the annals of history that I actively made myself wait for because I heard about the bugs. But generally, if it's a game that I'm really, really looking forward to, I'll probably just sort of want to play it straight away. So I'll just take a risk. And if it's a game I'm not desperate for, I might hang fire, but not really consciously. I might not think, I better wait until the bug fixes are out. So I sort of had to think long and hard about this. Skyrim was a game that I didn't get straight away, not because of the bugs that I'd heard about, but I benefited from the fact that I had to wait a couple of weeks. I think I waited because I had a lot of uni work to do at the time. I know you've got an entirely different story, Ben, which is Dick, which is, didn't you it almost got in the way of everything that you were trying to do at the time? Or have
I did all my uni work in the week leading up to its release.
Because you knew it would get in the way.
yeah, I cleared the slate.
I think I had uni work to do still, so I waited. And as a result, I never had an issue with that horse and cart at the beginning, the infamous horse and cart. You used to have things where you would kill enemies and they just spiral off into the sky. I don't think I really had any major glitches with that game. But one, I did think of one eventually, a game that when it released, I was like, well, I'm not interested in that. Not necessarily for bug reasons, but for reasons that will become apparent. But I eventually played it, probably a year later, and was like, oh yeah, this is much better. No Man's Sky.
Oh, okay.
Of course, didn't have a very good launch because people were very disappointed with some of the things that were missing from it. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head whether there were also bug issues. I don't think it was sort of infamously buggy. It was, just sort of missing content that was the biggest issue. But I was like, well, I'm not playing that because I'm not interested in playing a game that is not really as advertised. So yeah, I gave it a year or so, and when I finally gave it a go, a lot more of it had been added in. They just sort of fleshed out the world in general, and I was a lot more impressed. I didn't really sort of stick with it long term, but equally I had fun with it and thought, yeah, okay, this is sort of what I expected now at a baseline from this game, as opposed to what had been released at launch. So No Man's Sky is probably the main one for me.
Nice. I'm at the cutting edge of video games, Brian.
Yeah.
I pride myself on playing everything as soon as it comes out, where appropriate. So, I usually get all the bugs. And that's... seriously, though, I do my best to play a lot of their sort of bigger releases as and when they come out. There are rare exceptions, like Cyberpunk, which is not common. The issues with Cyberpunk and even No Man's Sky, those things don't happen very often.
No.
And if No Man's Sky came out as promised, I would have bought it very early on. But as such, I still haven't played it. And I know it's much better now, and it's just sort of a game I don't really have time for currently,
now,
or won't necessarily ever have time for. But for that reason, I do end up playing a lot of games in their launch state, and it's not very often that a game will come along that I will look at either mainly for bug reasons and just think, I'll play that later. I'll either persevere or it'll just put me off it entirely.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I suppose Days Gone is one of them, in that it was still buggy when I played it, but by all accounts, far and away more stable and enjoyable than it was at launch. But that wasn't a conscious decision, because if my friend hadn't put the copy into my hands and said, here, play this, I probably would have never played it.
Yeah.
It wasn't about me waiting intentionally. It was just, well, I'm not going to play that, and then I end up playing that. So I'm going to twist it ever so slightly, this question, and mold it to talk about not only Mass Effect 2, which is a game that just simply was not available on the hardware that I had until it was available, by which point I don't think it was remotely buggy when it launched.
Yeah.
But by the time it launched on PS3, it included 2 DLC characters, 2 pieces of DLC, I believe, or maybe it was just the one, and also had that graphic novel comic at the start as well.
Oh, yeah.
In order to choose the decision or make the decisions from the first game. So that, in every sense, was like the perfect version of Mass Effect 2. And I'm very glad that I waited to play it, because I could have borrowed a flatmate's Xbox 360 and played it, perhaps. But ultimately, the decision was out of my hands because I had limited money and resources, and I had to wait for it to be available. And when it was available, it was fantastic. And it was the best version of that game because it had everything in it. Equally, going to twist it even further to talk about the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is a game that I put off playing for so long that they remade it. And it ended up being amazing. And while you can still get a lot out of the original Resi 2, and a lot of people remember it fondly, still worth playing today, of course, get that out of the way. But Resi 2 Remake is a phenomenal game, not just a very faithful retelling of one of the best horror games of all time, but also ended up being one of the best games of 2019, full stop. And so in many senses, although it may not be in the spirit of that's Trevor Price's question, I'm very glad I waited close to 20 years in order to play Resi 2, because I got to experience a version that was far more in line with my tastes and, holds up way better today. So
I feel that way about Final Fantasy VII. I've still not played it because I don't really like the fact that it's this sort of episodic release. But if and when it's all been released, I may well finally jump in and give that game a go, because I know how big of a deal it is in gaming history, and it's the original, of course, I'm talking about now, and so many people love it. I'm a big PlayStation 1 fan, and it's often in sort of top 5, if not the number 1 PlayStation 1 game of all time in lists that you see online. So I feel like it's a game I should experience in some way, shape or form, and I just know that I won't be able to get on with the original version now. Like, it's, I think people who played it at the time can rely on the nostalgia and the fact that they know kind of what to expect. But I would go into that just kind of seeing it for what it is in this day and age. Yeah, by today's standards. So I'd struggle to enjoy it, I think. So I'm pleased that it's been remade, or being remade, I should say, really.
And we'll get the third part probably when we're in our 50s, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so.
That's exciting. But there we are. There's a few games there that we're glad we waited for various reasons. It's now time, Brian, to move on to the big discussion. Big discussion time. Oh, goodness. It's time for the big discussion. This big discussion comes from Jared, a.k.a. Axel's Alive 95, who says, "Hello, Dick and Brian. I hope you're well. Ben pulled no punches when talking about Death Stranding. Not a good game that just wasn't for him, but an objectively bad game.
Whoa.
While at the same time, other reviewers who will remain nameless said redacted. Axel's Alive did then go on to name and shame all reviewers, and so it has been redacted.
Oh, really? I thought that might have been in the original message, the word redacted.
No. That was some censoring from me.
Right.
I just don't want to get us in trouble. I'll send it to you after.
I'm very curious.
How exciting. Regardless, though, how do you recommend gamers with limited income decided they should buy a game when reviews are so conflicting? All these reviewers are respected, thank you, and are giving their honest opinions, but there is no consensus. I used this game as an example for the humour, but this kind of situation pops up all the time. Thoughts? Disclaimer, the views and opinions of Ben Potter do not reflect those of Brian Bumpiss or Dick Mycinko. That's what it says there.
Right.
Thank you very much. Axel's Alive 95.
Thank you, Jared. This is an issue with any kind of critique or critic, I should say. In the people have their own proclivities, and you've got to really, I think it's worth just kind of learning the tendency of certain reviewers and whether that lines up with you and what you like. So if there's a reviewer, either one of us or Ben or Peter perhaps, or someone from a different channel, then it's worth kind of seeing other games that they've talked about that perhaps you have played and getting an idea of whether you're into the same things. So I think it can be better to trust either a specific individual whose tastes align with yours, or I guess you could sometimes you can find an outlet that as a whole, despite the fact that they've got lots of different reviewers, it generally again will align with what you tend to think. Like for example, I tend to find that IGN is normally spot on, but of course they have loads of different reviewers on there. How they seem to always come to a consensus, I don't know. Maybe they just hire the right people, perhaps. But there are some games are going to be divisive as well. Like I sort of did a little reaction noise just then when Jared said it's an objectively bad game. Now,
I wasn't sure if Axel was talking about from their own perspective or continuing Ben Potter's thoughts
what Ben
on the
said,
game.
Right?
Yeah,
but either way, I mean, for a start, I'm not in any position to talk because I've only played about half an hour of Death Stranding. But in some ways, it seems like an okay game. In certain aspects, at least, like it looks good. And I'm sure that some of the gameplay mechanics are thoroughly enjoyable. Other parts of it, perhaps not, in that it's, it seems very slow-paced and sort of bloated with long periods of just ferrying cargo around. And it's very strange in a kind of Hideo Kojima sort of way. But some people like that. Some people actively really enjoyed Death Stranding, as an example. And to say that it's an objectively bad game, I don't know. That's difficult to talk about objectively bad when we know for a fact that lots of people subjectively really like it. I think perhaps the safest thing to do, if you can't necessarily find someone who you can rely on to get it right in alignment with your tastes every time, is to just look at the aggregators. To check out Metacritic, see what the general consensus is, rather than heading to YouTube and listening to such and such a reviewer and getting their opinion specifically. I think the best thing to do is maybe just see what the consensus is online, and that's what websites like Metacritic are for. Or as a final alternative, you could maybe try and find some spoiler-free gameplay online, so you can at least get an idea of how the game looks, how the game plays. Even if you obviously won't learn much about the narrative from that, but that can be the best way, outside of obviously getting your hands on it in some kind of demo capacity or at a friend's house, to just watch some gameplay online and think, yeah, this looks like it's what I'm into. But you can't always go off that. We talked about Terraria already, and I was surprised that I enjoyed that, for example. So there's no golden rule, but those are some ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not very often that a game will split critics right down the middle, as Death Stranding did. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm not allowed, but it was very divisive among critics and clearly among people who played it as well. That doesn't happen very often.
Last of Us Part 2, but that's another exception,
I'd say
really.
Critically that was pretty...
Critically true.
Glowing
yeah.
success.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole either, because there's a lot of toxicity down there, which should tell you all you need to know. But just because a game doesn't split critics down the middle, it's not a guarantee that you're then going to like it. Because, as you said, Brian, everyone's tastes are different. And even if a game is fundamentally, mechanically, aesthetically good, it doesn't mean that you're going to like it. It's
No.
exactly the reason why I couldn't get into Red Dead Redemption 2 and several other games of that type, where I can appreciate them as being outstanding, spectacular games, but just not for me personally, not something that I want to really get stuck into, or that I have tried to get stuck into and have just bounced off, whether that be because they are just not compatible with my tastes, or whether I was just trying to play them and I was in the wrong state of mind at the time, and I was in the wrong place at the time, and it was, sometimes games do come along at the right time and they're a better fit, and that's why it's always worth, if you are interested in a game but didn't get on with it initially, it's always worth revisiting if you have the time, when you're in a different place, because sometimes that can make all the difference. The advent of streaming and Let's Plays is a really good resource for getting an understanding, or a more, I suppose, visceral understanding of what a game can offer and whether or not you'd be interested in it, beyond obviously trying to find an outlet or a particular reviewer or critic, or beyond that, a particular YouTuber or Let's Player or streamer who aligns most with your tastes. When they speak, you think, yes, I actually find myself agreeing with you and your opinions. There's a good chance that their recommendations will carry way more weight than, say, a GameSpot review from X reviewer or an IGN review from X reviewer. Just because it's on that site and just because it has the prestige of being on such a big outlet doesn't necessarily mean it's going to speak to you and your tastes specifically. Streamers, Let's Players, just try to get your eyes on a game as much as possible, because trailers and sort of pre-release CG footage are inherently lies. They're there to hype up consumers, and they're there to secure pre-orders and purchases. They're not very, very rarely going to be representative of the final game, even if they're cut directly from the game or extracts directly from the game. What you want are those, if it's coming directly from a publisher themselves or a developer themselves, you want that uncut gameplay footage, those sort of small demos that they show. But even, as proven in the case of Cyberpunk, those can be lies. Those can be complete works of fiction, vertical slices just for E3, that don't represent the rest of the game. So if you are waiting until a game comes out to make a decision, which is always the best way to go about it, because, companies do lie, they want your money, and that's why they're doing it, then just try to watch as much stuff as possible. Demos no longer exist, and that sucks. But a lot of games are on Game Pass, increasingly so. Or if you're on EA Play, or if it's all bundled together on Game Pass, you can get, or you can try these games as part of a subscription, and that mitigates a lot of the financial investment in taking a chance on one game. Equally, Steam has an absurdly generous refund policy. If you don't like a game, you can play it for a few hours and then return it?
3 or 4 hours maybe? That might be wrong, but
it's mad. Either way, it's a lot more than any other platform offers. So there are options to try some of these games out if you have access to those platforms. But if not, just try and find someone who makes content who aligns most with your views on certain games and your tastes, because as I said, there's a good chance that they are going to speak the truth when it comes to a new game coming out. And beyond that, just watch it being played without spoilers if possible, but you know what I mean. That's probably the only way you can do it these days. Critics are a good measuring stick, but ultimately they tend not to disagree too much. As I said, critical reviews tend not to be split quite so much as they were with Death Stranding, with reviews all over the place. But even saying that, it doesn't mean it's going to be for you, a game, if it's reviewed very well.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing that can be useful is if people are making comparisons to a certain game. So, for example, if I'm trying to think of an example actually, but a new game comes out and someone says, "Oh, it's like a Souls-like," so you get an idea of, well, I like those games. Again, I'd hesitate with Souls-like because that's a kind of, it's almost a meme, isn't it? Like, oh, this is the Dark Souls of platform games. But I mean, when people mean it sincerely, so
there are definitely elements of gameplay that are relevant to that description.
Like when Elden Ring comes out, I mean, that obviously is going to be a Souls-like because of the way it's being made. But that's an on-the-nose example. But if for someone, when that game releases, if you're reading a review, you don't know about the game, you've not heard very much about Elden Ring, you've not been following it, and then you read something that says, oh yeah, it's exactly what you might expect. If you're into your Soulsborne games, then give this a go. Then you can immediately make that connection and go, oh yeah, well, I like that. Whether or not the reviewer says that's a good thing or a bad thing, they might say, oh god, not more of this Souls-like stuff, or yay, I love this, it's great. That doesn't really matter whether they like it or not. So you don't have to worry about their opinion of the game as much as that point of reference. So that can be handy as well, if and when comparisons are made.
Yeah. It can be difficult to know where to spend your money and how to spend it, especially if the critics are divided. But yeah, just try some of those things. And sometimes you do just have to take a gamble. And sometimes you take a gamble, as we've covered in this show earlier on, and it pays off massively. And you don't think you're going to like it, and you end up loving it. So, enjoy it. Enjoy your games.
Nice callback there, Dick. I like that.
Oh, you're welcome, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm professional, after all. Well, it's time to end the show, though, Brian, and it's time for you to tell people where to find us.
We are Team TripleJump. You can get all of our content, both video and stream, at youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. We stream on both of those channels, and when we do, we're modded by Lord Brotovich and Trowling Badger. Thank you, team. Remember, by the way, speaking of Twitch, if you've got Amazon Prime, one of the benefits that you get with that at no extra cost is a sort of free Twitch sub. So you can spend that on us. You get all the normal benefits. We get it. We get the financial benefit as though you're paying for it. Everyone's a winner. No extra cost to you. Our social media is twitter.com and facebook.com/Team TripleJump. Thank you to Fraser, our community manager, who's doing a wonderful job already of handling both Twitter and Facebook. And also Luke Eldon, who's still looking after Facebook as well, alongside Fraser. So much love to both of those people. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump is where you can go to access all kinds of tiers of rewards to help us financially. You can ask questions on this podcast at the very minimum tier. Our website is triplej.mup. That's triplejU.mp. If you get to triplej.mup/Discord, that'll send you straight to our Discord, which is modded by Jack, Joe, and Holloweyes. Thank you, mods. triplej.mup/podcast will give you send you to the audio version of the podcast if you're watching on YouTube right now. triplej.mup/VODs will redirect you to our VODs channel where all of our live stream VODs are uploaded to YouTube. And finally, don't forget to check out triplejumpshop.com for our latest merch, and you can follow at TripleJumpShop on Twitter to find out when the next drop is coming.
Absolutely. You can follow Brian on Twitter and Instagram at that Peter Austin, and myself just on Twitter at confused_dude. We do lists every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Streams every Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Thursday being the joint stream, Blaze It on YouTube. Monday and Friday being solo streams on Twitch. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly. Friday for for patrons of a certain tier, and Sunday for everyone else. The podcast is every Saturday, and we do shows once every other week, or thereabouts. Leave a review on iTunes, etc. It helps something to do with Algor's rhythms. TripleJump.gg, that's a great website. You can go there and buy virtual currencies for all sorts of stuff, and it's super helpful to us, and you're going to buy that stuff anyway, so why not?
Yeah.
We'd also like to sincerely thank Madsterdactyl for all of her amazing work modding our YouTube and Twitch live streams over the past year or so. She's stepping away due to work commitments, but she's done a fantastic job, and she's been sort of a staple of our live streams for a long time, so she will be very sorely missed. Hopefully we'll see her in the chat every so often.
I'm sure we will. Thank you, Madsterdactyl, for your work.
Yes. We got a new starter, Brian.
Yes, we have. His name is Kieran. There's actually already been... He's a video editor, I should say. There's already been a video edited by him that's gone out on the channel. It was the 10... Oh, did he do best or 10 worst years in gaming? I think he did. So that went out a couple of weeks ago. He did that as a little trial edit for us a while back before we kind of signed the contract. But he did an excellent job of it and is very much now signed and sealed. And he's working with us full time in the office. So you can expect to see many, many more of his edits going forward. And we're looking forward to actually everyone getting back to the office and working together as one big happy family.
Yes, very excited. There's 9, 10 of us now?
Yeah, the team has grown so much over lockdown. Because obviously really we had Alex and Liam, and there are more people joining us. We've got
Phillips
Kat
working with us on a mostly part-time basis.
Yeah,
as well as obviously our wonderful freelancers. But our office, we're taking over.
Yeah.
Physically, we're taking over space. So yes, welcome, Kieran. We hope the job is not too awful. Finally, we've got a new What It Means to Me going out on the channel this week from Rach, from Don't Rach Quit. I'm sure you'll be familiar with a lot of her work. She's a fantastic streamer, used to work for What Culture, and she's talking all about what Demon Souls means to her. It's a great video, and it's out now. So go give that a watch, and also go give her a subscribe and a follow on YouTube and Twitch and stuff. Go support her.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, there we are. Thank you so much for listening / watching, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we will be back very soon. Just time to talk about this week's
done your sponsor.
We've got to do the sponsor.
Slow down.
Shadies. You want them?
No.
Okay, well, they're available in Primark. They're an official tie-in with Hades, the roguelike that won all the awards last year. So, go buy them. They're crap and they break easily. And that's not a reflection of the game at all. It's just I think they've made a really poor partnership with Primark, who do manufacture terrible things for very cheap. So, there you go. Anyway, that's the podcast. Bye!
Bye-bye.